Part 77. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 779. However, after a long discussion, in the end, the tactics proposed by Hemingway were the safest, and Hemingway also made a tactical plan in advance. At this point, none of the Legion commanders present were as prepared as he was. Binghua couldn't fault the tactics proposed by Hemingway. Of course, if Binghua was just a powerless being, he would definitely not feel this way. Anyway, even if the front can't be blocked, they still have their own reasons. In addition, Binghua and Kemming have similar ideas, which is to end this war as soon as possible. If you want to end this war, you must occupy a wider star sea, destroy the production capacity of the Eternal Ascended Ones as much as possible, and compress their activity space. Binghua had a premonition that this war would not end as quickly as the previous wars, and this expedition would inevitably be a long journey. After making the arrangements, Hemingway immediately led the expedition fleet, part of the God's fleet, and a large number of defense forces. 10 super legions broke away from the core array of the 1st Expeditionary Group Army, leaving the planetary system where Planet 15,246 is located, and heading towards other galaxies. Go ahead. Without the forward troops blocking the front, Kaza and some army commanders naturally led their troops to push forward. The hall that was originally full of people was now the only one left, and Binghua was already used to it. Since she became the leader of the Justice World, and as the strength of the Justice World gradually grew stronger, she no longer needed to take matters into her own hands. Even if extremely dangerous destroyer sequence mechanical warriors appear on the battlefield, they will be dealt with by high-level angels and god-level angels. Now she only needs to sit on the throne and quietly watch everything happen. Several years have passed since the Great Expedition in the blink of an eye. Apart from the summary of information about the expeditionary force coming back every day, the Justice World has no other impact on the Justice World. Because the most stressful period of raising supplies for the Great Expedition has passed, the residents of the Justice World feel that the tense atmosphere in society has been easing in recent times. Everyone suddenly discovered that the Great Expedition was not as difficult as imagined, and because of the huge material consumption of the Great Expedition, many better quality jobs were unexpectedly provided. At the same time, the propaganda of recruiting soldiers in various worlds has never stopped. After a year of training for new recruits, these recruits will pass through the gate of time and space and be uniformly delivered to various expeditionary armies. Is this a just world? It seems to be no different from the civilizations in the known universe. Angel Leng looked at the blue planet in the starry sky in front of him, muttered to himself, and then accelerated towards the planet. Your Majesty the Judgment Angel, you have entered the world of Kira, please show your identity information. Just as Angel Leng was trying to break into the atmosphere of Kira, a communication connected to her and asked her identity. I am Angel Leng. I am ordered by Queen Kesha to pay a visit to His Excellency Binghua, the King of Heavenly Sword. The person on the other end of the communication was silent for a while, and was replaced by someone with a richer voice. Hello, angel warriors from other star fields, please land in this area. I will discuss with you in person about visiting the goddess. After saying that, the communication was hung up, but a positioning coordinate was sent over. Angel Leng frowned slightly when he saw this, feeling that the people here didn't seem to have much respect for Angel. However, as the saying goes, talented people are bold, and Angel Leng, who is proud of his own strength, speeds up and approaches the location where Kira's world is sent. His Excellency Angel Leng, I am the Archon of Kira World, and this is His Excellency the Judgment Angel stationed in Kira World. Welcome to the world of justice. After Angel Leng landed, a sturdy man in a robe opened his mouth to welcome him, with a smile on his tough face. There was a female angel wearing an armor very similar to Angel Leng's. However, her face was cold and her eyes were very indifferent. Her attention was always on Angel Leng. Thank you for the welcome, Archon. I am here on behalf of Queen Kesha's friendship. If possible, please take me to meet His Excellency the Skyward Sword King. The angel was coldly greeted by the Archon of Kira World, but he did not dare to stretch out his hand to hit the smiling man. He put away his temper, bowed, and said a few words. However, the angel's cold eyes occasionally glanced at the angel of judgment mentioned by Archon Kira, especially the armor that was different from Merlot's heavenly palace and the fan Shenjian at his waist. Your Excellency the goddess does not reside in the world of Kira. If Your Excellency Angel Len wants to meet the goddess, you still need to go through dozens of worlds to reach the world where the goddess lives. Archon Kira did not tell Angel Len about the goddess leaving the world of justice with the expeditionary force. Although the young female angel in front of her is of the same race as the goddess, she is not from the righteous world after all. Angel Len nodded in understanding. She also knew that if she rushed over rashly, she would not be able to see the Heavenly Sword King immediately, so she was not in a hurry. After the governor of Kira World settled Angel Len, he took some time to contact the Divine Throne World and reported Angel Len's affairs. By the time the news reached Binghua, it was already several hours later. Binghua was a little confused about Kesha sending a female angel to look for her. She and Kesha had a communication connection, so couldn't they just tell her something directly? Sister Kesha, why did you send a female angel warrior to me? Kesha on the other side of the communication was very calm after hearing this. If you contact me, I guess Leng should have arrived at your territory. Binghua, Leng is one of the few new generation angels with good fighting talent. I asked her to come to you because I want her to learn something under your hand. Learning something? Sister Kesha, what do you think I can teach her? How about fighting and killing? Binghua felt a little troubled when she heard this. She was currently at war and had no time to take care of the little angel. Binghua, I know you hate trouble. But we have been sisters for so long, and this is the first time I ask you to do something, sister. I know your ability very well. As long as Leng can reach 1/10 of your ability, I don't have to worry about the future of the next generation of Merlot Heaven. Kesha's voice was a little helpless. The reason why she asked Leng Hesha to leave the known universe and go to the world of justice was to find a good teacher for Leng. Leng, Yan, and Qingning are considered to be the best beings among the angels in this issue. Yan is chosen by her, while Qingning, who is quiet and has a sharp mind, is chosen by He 11. Leng, who only has an impulsive and irritable personality, has no teacher. Originally, Kesha planned to let Ruaning teach Leng. After all, her third-generation micro-wormhole combat method is quite powerful. But what Ruaning did next made Kesha give up this idea and think of Binghua instead. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 780. In order not to disturb other worlds, Leng arrived at the God's Throne World on a transport ship after several months of transit under the arrangement of the Archon of Kira World. Before Leng had time to appreciate the God's Throne World, the most prosperous and populous world in the Justice World, he was arranged to enter the gate of time and space, and was transported to the annihilation level of the 1st Expeditionary Force along with the Defense Force soldiers who were supplementary troops. Your Excellency Angel Leng, the goddess's room is in front of you. The goddess has been waiting for you here for a long time. Kaza led Leng to a closed metal door and motioned for Leng to go in. Hey, you are a male angel. I remember that in the history of angel civilization, the Heavenly Sword King was one of the 4 kings who expelled you from the Angel Nebula. Why are you here serving the Heavenly Sword King? Ever since Angel Leng came to the 1st Expeditionary Force, he had seen many male angel warriors along the way, and he had this doubt in his mind. Now that he saw Kaza was about to leave, Leng hesitated and asked this question. This is what you are talking about? This happened more than 10,000 years ago. I once learned about this history from the Queen's mouth. Although I don't want to admit it, our male angels did go a bit too far. But that was all a few generations ago. My tribe and I were saved by the Queen in times of crisis. The Queen has also given us a life that is countless times better than before. Now my people and I are willing to fight for the Queen. As long as it is an enemy recognized by the Queen, no matter who it is, we will swing the sword without any hesitation. This is why I am loyal to the Queen, Your Excellency Angel Leng. Is there anything else you would like to ask? Kaza spoke out his true thoughts very happily. He could not understand or imagine that era when male and female angels were hostile to each other. Because as long as Kaza can remember, the male and female angels in the settlement have gotten along very well, and everyone is united to fight against the intelligent machines. Seeing that Angel Leng no longer asked questions, Kaza nodded to him, opened the door and signaled Leng to go in directly. Leng entered the hall behind the door, and the alloy door behind him closed automatically. Angel Leng also saw Binghua sitting on a simple metal throne at the end of the hall at a glance. It was exactly the same as the image of the Heavenly Sword King that Leng saw in the angel database. His long black hair was spread over his shoulders and the armor in front of him. On his heroic face was a pair of extremely indifferent black eyes. In addition to the above, an invisible aura surrounded him, and Leng felt as if he was looking up at a peak, with a huge shadow cast down invisibly. "Are you Angel Leng?" Binghua observed Leng's reaction with interest. As soon as the little angel came in, his eyes widened slightly, as if he had seen something extraordinary, and his expression changed. Angel Leng heard the sound and finally reacted, secretly cursing himself for being so rude, and quickly stepped forward and knelt down on one knee under the high throne platform to salute. Mellow Heavenly Court is directly under the Angel Legion. Angel Leng has met the Heavenly Sword King. Get up, it's been a long time since an angel called me the Heavenly Sword King. And you don't have to be too restrained. Unlike Merlot Heaven, except for some formal occasions, all these cumbersome etiquette can be discarded. Angel Leng heard the words and stood up from the ground, looking at Binghua. Your Excellency, King of Heavenly Sword, I am here according to the order of Queen Kesha. I am coming here to learn new tactics by your side. Kesha has already told me about this, but it's just angelic. My teaching process is very difficult. You must be mentally prepared before accepting my teaching. I've made up my mind, and no matter how difficult it is, I will persevere. Binghua nodded, put down his crossed legs, left the throne and stood up. Very good, I like your crisp look. From today on, I will be your future teacher. Before you get my recognition, you can only stay by my side. I don't want to receive news of your death someday in the future. Binghua's face was serious, and Angel Leng below was also listening attentively. Her usual disapproving attitude was lost after she saw Binghua. After deciding to accept Leng as his student, Binghua did not intend to be perfunctory and directly transferred the basic knowledge about the application theory of dark energy that he had compiled to Leng. These things are some basics, you should take a closer look and study them during this period. After you have mastered this knowledge, I will teach you something else. Facing the complicated data and information from the teacher she had just recognized, Angel Leng hesitated to speak. She really wanted to say that she was here to learn combat skills, not to do research. But as soon as he recalled the majesty of his teacher when he first entered this hall, Angel Leng wisely kept his mouth shut. If nothing else, just judging from the past information of his teacher Binghua, he is also a man of truth. A few weeks passed in the blink of an eye. Angel Leng painstakingly sorted out the dark energy theory transmitted to her by Binghua, and messed up her hair countless times for this purpose. Later, when she was studying the application theory of dark energy, Angel Leng felt extremely irritable and could not calm down. In the end, she simply lost her temper and went to find Binghua again. Teacher, I really am not this material. Even if you let me practice swordsmanship for several days and nights, I feel it will be more useful than this. Binghua wasn't angry at all. Angel Leng couldn't understand the dark energy application theory, which was as she expected. While communicating with Kesha, Binghua learned a little bit about Angel Leng's character and some of her usual behavioral habits from Kesha. In short, to use a very appropriate description, Leng is an activist, not a theoretical person. Not only is he not talented in learning theoretical knowledge, he can only be said to be a complete mess. As a theoretical and practical person who can turn knowledge into weapons, how could Binghua be satisfied with his future apprentice being a reckless man who only knows how to kill people with a sword? Therefore, letting Leng delve into the theoretical knowledge of dark energy application is just an introduction. The next step is to let Leng feel the beating from reality and let her understand that sometimes it is useless to just slash with a sword. Leng, let alone practicing swordsmanship for a few days, your level will not improve much even if you practice it for hundreds of years. Sometimes you have to change your thinking, such as knowledge, sometimes it will be a more powerful weapon. After speaking, Binghua closed the book in his hand, put it into the arsenal, and stood up from the throne where he usually sat. I happen to have nothing to do. Let's go find a place to practice. I want to know what level you have reached first. Binghua said with a smile, and then with a wave of his hand, a micro wormhole appeared to the side, and he walked away. Leng Vinian felt excitement and expectation in his heart, and also entered the micro wormhole. In Merlot heaven, Leng had heard many legends about his teacher Binghua. Each and every one of his outstanding achievements made the viewer doubt his life. The angel who checked the information would have the same thought in his mind, that is this a fabrication? Story. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 781. Angel Leng felt as if he had passed through a thin film, and the surrounding environment had changed from the narrow and dark hull of the ship to an unusually open land. However, the surrounding environment is a bit desolate, with only sand and gravel, and no signs of greenery or life. It's very spacious here. We can all stretch out and don't have to worry about breaking anything. Binghua turned around and looked at Angel Leng, raising his right hand slightly. The hilt of the sword between the flames protruded from the void, and was pulled out by Binghua. Okay, Leng, take out your weapon. You can attack as you like. I won't use power beyond your limit. Seeing that his teacher had said this, Leng did not hesitate. He also took out his flaming sword and assumed a thrusting stance. The moment Binghua blinked, Angel Leng suddenly raised her sword and stabbed out, and a dent was created on the ground where she was originally. A harsh metal collision sounded, causing a burst of flying sand and rocks. Binghua's eyes did not open, and the cross-section of the sword in front of him accurately blocked the tip of Leng's sudden thrust. The strength is okay, but it's too straightforward. After Binghua finished speaking, he twisted his right wrist holding the sword to direct the flames in Leng's hand to one side. At the same time, he opened his left hand in a palm shape and pushed it forward. In order to speed up the thrust, Angel Leng did not fall to the ground but kept flying. After being pushed by Binghua, his whole body flew backwards uncontrollably. After Binghua finished all this, he gently waved the flaming sword in his hand toward the air ahead, and a flaming slash cut through the space and flew forward. Seeing this, Leng hurriedly dodged to the side, and at the same time, as if responding with color, he also slashed with flames. However, compared to the condensed and extremely condensed strike from Binghua, which was compressed to the extreme, Leng's strike was far inferior in terms of appearance. This is also true. Binghua opened his eyes without moving. With just one wave of the flaming sword in his hand, he smashed Leng Zhan's flaming slash into energy fragments. Leng, this is why I asked you to delve into the theory of dark energy application. Your attacks are superficial and not real. Don't say it's me, any angel of the same level as you will not be hurt if he eats you. Leng Vinian was a little shocked. She looked at the ground with a gap next to her, and then at Binghua standing there, with a rather unconvinced expression. Binghua shook his head slightly when he saw this, but on the other hand, he quite admired Leng's stubborn character and refused to admit defeat. Leng let out a soft drink and fanned the angel wings behind her. Her body suddenly became blurry, and the extreme super speed caused after images to be dragged out behind her. Binghua was not surprised when he saw this. This was the real power of Angel, which was its super high mobility that exceeded that of warriors of the same level. But Angel Leng playing with speed in front of her was like playing with a machete in front of Guangong. Without panic, he raised his sword to block Angel Leng's attack, guided the sword body with huge kinetic energy to the side, and then counterattacked at a not very fast speed, forcing Angel Leng back. A few minutes later, Angel Leng distanced himself from Binghua and landed on the ground, his chest rising and falling slightly, his eyes fixed on Binghua with a gloomy expression on his face. Swordsmanship, to put it bluntly, is nothing more than a relatively basic fighting technique. In addition to practicing various basic moves as if they were instinctive, the rest is the instantaneous calculation of force and superimposed potential energy. As long as I can calculate the angle and time of your sword draw, it will be easy for me to dodge or attack. Furthermore, just like me, as long as the force of your sword swing does not exceed my coping limit, I can easily direct the force and kinetic energy you exert on the sword to one side. And you seemed defenseless to me at that moment, and it was easy for me to kill you. Binghua lowered his flaming sword and spoke slowly to explain the doubts in Leng's heart. Leng's foundation is very good, whether it is the application of high-speed tactics, swordsmanship, or even combat consciousness, it is much higher than that of ordinary angels. However, it is not without its shortcomings, that is, the attack method is too simple. Except for the flame slash at the beginning, Leng has been engaged in hand-to-hand combat for the past few minutes. This is not an advantage. It is easy to be targeted. If it encounters someone faster than her, it is easy to be kited. Leng felt that she had been hit. She was quite confident in her hand-to-hand combat skills. After all, she had not yet encountered an opponent among the entire new generation of angels. Even Yan would not be able to compete with her if it weren't for the special nature of the thunder fighting method. Seeing Leng's dejected look, Binghua thought it was time. After all, he couldn't be beaten to death with a stick, so he turned around and said, "Of course, you are not completely useless. Your swordsmanship and high-speed combat skills are quite solid. At least ordinary angels will not be your opponent. But since you recognize me as your teacher, this level is naturally far from enough. First of all, in addition to swordsmanship, you also need to master close combat. I have an angel under my command who is very good at this. If she were to compete in bare-handed combat, even I might not be her opponent. On the other hand, it's your crappy dark energy tactics." Binghua said as he raised his left hand to form a sword and swung it to one side in the air. A slash of flames flew out of the air, and Leng's eyes widened in shock. "You can do this with your bare hands, you can do this with your bare hands." Angel Leng was really shocked now. She had never seen an angel in Merlot heaven who could strike with flaming attacks with his bare hands. Once you have thoroughly studied the theory of dark energy applications, it will not be difficult to do what I did. After all, flame slash is only the basis of dark energy tactics. As the core energy source that maintains the activities and bursts of super warriors, dark energy can do many things. But that's the knowledge of energy conversion theory. As Binghua spoke, he was still demonstrating to Leng. The dark energy in his hands was shaped into various shapes, and they all had the same characteristic, which was incomparable condensation. Leng's eyes were fixed on Binghua's movements, not missing any of Binghua's words. This was also Binghua's first time teaching students, and she wasn't very proficient, but she had thousands of years of experience, so she didn't panic. Binghua planned to study this matter as a subject and make adjustments at any time based on Leng's reaction. However, as a battle angel who has experienced countless bloody battles, Binghua knows very well what abilities he must have to become a warrior who can deal with all kinds of desperate situations. First of all, the first thing is to prevent yourself from having any major shortcomings. After that, Binghua gave some theoretical lectures to Leng, and then returned to the first expeditionary force with Leng. No one knew that just now, the goddess of the world of justice and her students had sneaked out. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 782. Leng returned to her room. Compared to her residence in Merlot Heaven, the decoration here was drab and plain, with silver alloy walls, white bedding and beds, as well as an empty desk and a chair. However, Leng didn't have any dissatisfaction. All the crew members' accommodations on the entire Annihilation class mothership were the same, except for Binghua, who was a goddess. Moreover, as an angel, Angel Leng actually has no special requirements for accommodation. Even sleeping in the vacuum of the universe has no effect on her. What gives her a headache is the dark energy application theory she is about to learn. Leng felt that he would spend a long time in pain. Binghua, how does it feel to have an apprentice? I heard from Kesha that she sent Leng to you to be your student. Hexi asked with a smile. Binghua replied indifferently. It's not great, it's still far from what I imagined. While answering He 11's words, Binghua called up the news compiled by the recent expeditions in various star regions to see if there were any new discoveries. Don't tell me that your request is to compare Leng with you. Hexi said in surprise and looked at Binghua with an incredible expression. Sister Hexi. What do you mean by looking at me with such strange eyes? Am I such a shameless angel in your heart? Binghua couldn't stand He 11's gaze in the projection, so she reluctantly turned off the Expeditionary Force's intelligence summary projection. Binghua. I think your requirements for your disciples can be a little lower. This is not the era we live in. We need to deal with enemies that are far beyond our abilities, and we must work hard to become stronger. That kind of life is too tiring and too dangerous. My request to Qingning is that when she has accumulated enough knowledge, I will slowly hand over my work to her to complete. There was a touch of relaxation in Hexi's words, which made Binghua feel a little surprised. Sister Hexi, do you plan to step down from the position of the Holy Right? He 11 rolled his eyes at Binghua. Do you find this position on the Holy Right an easy one? As long as you, the Holy Leftist, are allowed to give up your career and go outside the known universe to conduct civilization evolution experiments, I, the old guy, are not allowed to retire and enjoy life. That's not what I meant, Sister Hexi. Binghua explained quickly and then asked doubtfully. Sister Hexi, don't you really like doing research? Why do you suddenly don't want to do it? Binghua, we are already old, just like you and me. Although time cannot leave traces on us, it is undeniable that we are all old guys who have lived for almost 20,000 years. In the nearly 10,000 years since you were absent from Merlot Heaven, many things have happened in Merlot Heaven. As you know, the left wing of the Holy Light has changed 4 times. I watched the number of familiar faces decrease one by one. They either died or retired and went to spend their remaining time in a place no other angel knew. When he said this, He 11 sighed. The sisters who once moved towards the same ideal together now have very few left in Merlot Heaven. Honestly, I didn't understand it at all at first, but then I figured it out. We have paid enough for Merlot Heaven, and it's time to live the life we want. And those little guys think and behave differently from us old guys. They can't stand our indifference, and we can't stand their wanton squandering of the accumulated wealth of Merlot Heaven to unreservedly help those civilizations that have little to do with angels. Binghua fell silent listening to Hexi's constant talk. She could understand Hexi's feelings. The four sisters who were once as close as one family were now falling apart and turning against each other. Not to mention he 11, even Binghua, whose heart was tempered by the battlefield and was extremely tough, once doubted whether he had done something wrong in the past. Moreover, his act of directly retiring thousands of years ago, if viewed from another perspective, was actually quite selfish. He abandoned all the subordinates who once trusted him and were as close as sisters to Hexie in the Merlot heavenly court. So I think it's time to entrust the responsibility of the holy rite to the next generation. We old guys need to change the way we live, and the Merlot heavenly court also needs to change its atmosphere. Otherwise, we will just slowly grow old together with us old guys until we can no longer keep up with this ever-changing universe. After speaking, both Hexie and Binghua fell silent until Binghua took the initiative to break the stalemate a few minutes later. Sister Hexie, according to the definition of our angels and Kamigawa, we are all gods, possessing immortal life and the highest wisdom. The meaning of our birth is to lead civilization to continue to move forward and develop, but this road is too difficult for us gods who have the same joys and sorrows as mortals. Sister Hexie, if you really decide not to bear the burden of the holy rite, then I am sincerely happy for you. We were once ordinary female angels, no different from the mortals we see now. We once had great expectations for the future, and we also had plans for what we wanted to do in the future. But the war between male and female angels tore both to pieces, and we took up arms in order to liberate our sisters. In order to prevent the known universe from being dominated by beasts, he went on an expedition to the stars. All of this has caused us to gradually deviate from the life trajectory we originally expected. I saw through it thousands of years ago. I was tired of all the trivial things that I couldn't deal with all day long, and I was tired of the hide-and-seek game with Liang Bing. So I left Merlot heaven, wanting to take a good look at this gorgeous starry sky. Sister Hexie, guess what? Hexie listened to Binghua say this, propped up his cheek and listened carefully, and performed the responsibility that should be borne by Penjian in a timely manner. How about it? I found that there was nothing beautiful in what I saw. The beautiful environment contained fatal dangers. The desolate planets were filled with people struggling to survive. Demons were even more prevalent, using lies to lure ordinary people into gaining powerful power without having to pay any price. But here, outside the known universe, this place is worse than the known universe. The life of Kamigawa body is like weeds on the roadside in the star sea, and any being can step on it when passing by. Binghua became more and more excited as she spoke, and Hexie quickly spoke up. Binghua, you can speak slowly, don't get excited, and control your emotions. It is undeniable that although Kesh's justice order has major flaws, compared with my place, it is as beautiful as heaven. I can't bear it. If I have been living in hell since birth, then I can accept it with peace of mind, because this is the common sense of the world in my eyes. But Sister Hexie, I am not. My worldview and moral values prevent me from ignoring all this happening, so I gave up my ideal of continuing to travel the universe, and I stayed in this hell-like starry sky. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 783. Binghua looked at Hexie with serious eyes. The starry sky where I am now is like a chain full of chains, tightly binding me here. I can easily break free of these chains, but I can't. Because hundreds of billions of lives here have placed their expectations for the future and their vision for a better life in me. And I have decided to lead them to realize their beautiful wishes for the future, let them gain a firm foothold in the sea of stars, and enable them to deal with any external dangers. This is my current ideal and the path I am currently practicing. Only this ideal and this determination can enable me to fulfill my responsibilities as a god and lead these mortals to continue to move forward and develop. Binghua felt much better after she said what was in her heart. She looked at Hexie again, the sister with whom she had the closest relationship. Sister Hexie, you and I used to be burdened by this responsibility. We kept suppressing our hearts for the future of angel civilization and ran towards that goal with all our strength. But to be honest, Merlot Heaven and Angel are already strong enough today, and they can still continue without old guys like us. So Sister Hexy, if you really decide to relieve yourself of this burden, then do what you want to do without any scruples. Hexy covered his mouth with his hands and laughed after hearing this. Binghua, you told me so many things just because of this last sentence. Okay, sister, I listened. Your sister and I want to find a place with a beautiful environment where no worries can disturb me, where I can read quietly and compile and organize what I have learned. But it's a bit early to say this now. Qingning doesn't understand anything yet. It will probably be hundreds of years before she can take charge of her own business. Binghua also laughed when he heard this. If you can't find such a place in the known universe, you are welcome to come to me. I don't have much else here, but there are quite a few livable worlds with beautiful environments, and you won't have the troubles of Merlot Heaven to find you. He 11 rolled his eyes at Binghua. You are waiting for me, sister, here. Why don't you say something? You happen to be short of a chief scientific research officer, and let me go over there and continue to shine. Faced with Hexy's teasing, Binghua refused to comment. It doesn't matter to me if you think so. Anyway, I always welcome the arrival of any angel. The previous dull atmosphere was swept away by the banter between Binghua and Hexy. After several months of hard study, Angel Leng finally successfully entered the world of dark energy application theory. At least she no longer turned a blind eye to it. The understanding of the flaming sword attack is no longer about importing a fixed formula through the flaming sword weapon engine, gathering energy and emitting energy chopper waves. Leng figured out the formation principle of flame slash and how to increase its power, as well as the more efficient compression technology of dark energy. This speed cannot be said to be fast, it can only be said that it is outrageously slow. Binghua feels that he should change his teaching model, such as from pure theory to a model that combines theory and practice. After swatting away Leng's flaming slash, Binghua arrived in front of Leng in the blink of an eye. It was still a familiar formula and a familiar smell, and he slapped Leng's chest with a push. A circle of dark energy exploded, and the huge impact carried Leng flying backwards, hitting a huge rock hard with a roar. Binghua stood up straight, looked at Leng, and said aloud. Continue, you have made a little progress compared to last time, but it is also very limited. Also, when fighting, don't rush forward blindly. You have to use your brain and think about possible combat strategies. Otherwise, as long as the enemy interrupts your attack rhythm, you will be in a hurry. Leng sat on the ground and spit. The pain was not that painful, but her chest was a little tight, as if the damage from the dark energy explosion had directly penetrated the armor and hurt her body. Come again. Faced with Leng's unconvinced words, Binghua shook his head slightly and then put on a defensive posture again. A few seconds later, Leng flew out and landed on the ground, sliding backwards for more than 10 meters in an extremely awkward manner. After that, Leng challenged Binghua again more than 10 times, but the results were almost the same. There was no anxiety, no fierce collision, and Leng's defeat would end in the blink of an eye. Each of Leng's attacks was either easily blocked by Binghua, or was directed to the side. What greeted Leng was Binghua's almost unchanging palm push and burst of dark energy. To be honest, I could clearly see my teacher's movements, and even the principle of the dark energy explosion of pushing palms was very clear, but Leng just couldn't avoid his teacher's attack and break through her defense. In fact, even though Binghua suppressed his physical output to the same level as he Leng, or even lower, the basic qualities of the third-generation god were there. Extraordinary eyesight, thinking and analysis ability that is always simulating calculations, and rich battle experience that far exceeds that of ordinary angels, all of which make up Binghua's ability to easily see Leng's flaws in his attack. After more than 10 battles, Binghua finally figured out how much Leng had improved recently, but at the same time he also discovered a problem, that is, he was too strong and could not give Leng enough training. Thinking of Binghua's thoughts, the invisible stance suddenly imprisoned the rushing Leng in mid-air. Leng, wait for me here for a while, and I'll find you an opponent. After Binghua finished speaking, he stepped directly into the wormhole. Leng lost his restraint in mid-air and almost fell to the ground from the air. Leng stood on the ground and exhaled, found a towering rock and sat down on it. Picking up the flaming sword, Leng looked at the frosted blade reflecting the metallic luster, as well as the sacred language on the sword's spine. Leng began to wonder if all his previous enemies had given up. Those ferocious demons were obviously vulnerable to him, but why had he been greeted with only failure since he came here? Leng is the opponent you need to defeat later. Leng was interrupted from her thoughts by Binghua's voice. She looked up and saw her teacher reappearing at some point. Next to her stood a nearly 3-meter-tall robot-like being. Teacher, what is this? Leng quickly stood up and stood in front of his teacher, and asked slightly confused. These are the immortal warriors of my immortal legion. They are elites who have experienced countless cruel battles and hellish battlefields. After my calculations, although his strength is slightly worse than yours, it's hard to say who will win between the two of you. Binghua's tone was a bit malicious. The immortal warriors who came to help the goddess didn't react at all, but Leng suddenly felt that it was understandable that he couldn't beat the teacher. After all, the teacher was one of the 4 kings. But if he faced the soldier of the righteous world in front of him, Leng didn't think he would lose. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 784. By the way, Leng, put away your flaming sword and use this. Binghua said loudly, and at the same time raised his finger. A long silver sword with a simple shape shot out from the wormhole opened in the void and was inserted on the ground in front of Leng Shen. Okay, now you two can have a good time making out and making out. Binghua smiled and incited the angel wings behind him to fly high into the sky and found the top of a giant rock 100 meters away from Leng and the immortal. When he landed, an invisible force field crushed part of the giant rock into the shape of a seed. Binghua turned around and sat up, looking at Leng's position, intending to see if this method would work. Leng stared at the warrior known as the Immortal in front of him, pulled out the silver sword in front of him, and knew what kind of weapon it was at a glance. Taya alloy sword, Merlot Heaven also has this kind of weapon. It is usually used for sparring between angels. This kind of weapon has limited damage, and it will not cause any serious injury after being hit twice. The reason why Binghua took out the Tai alloy sword was mainly just in case, to prevent Leng from accidentally smashing the immortal armor. You must know that there are not many stocks of this kind of armor in the justice world, and so far it has not been unable to be mass-produced. First of all, let me make it clear that I will not hold back. Leng was the first to speak out. As a rather strong angel, she could not allow herself to remain embarrassed in front of her teacher. The mission assigned to me by the goddess is to defeat you. Even if you are a student of the goddess, I will not show mercy. The immortal's voice was serious. After speaking, he stretched out his hand to hold the handle that popped up on the back of his armor. The next moment, a giant sword was pulled out, followed by a thick folding shield that could cover less than half of his body. At the same time, on the immortal's back, several jetports that were originally folded and hidden were quietly exposed. The armor that originally looked a bit bloated actually began to shrink in the blink of an eye, and the joints became tighter, and the figure became slightly slender. This is proof that the immortals have entered a fighting state. As a super combat weapon of the world of justice that can suppress the purifier sequence mechanical warriors of the eternal ascended, it naturally has its power. Leng didn't feel frightened when she saw this. It was just a kind of armor. It was not like she had never seen it before in the known universe. A leaping pair of wings incited it to rush into the sky and create a distance of several hundred meters from the immortal below. The next moment, Leng raised his sword and dived downwards, and the Ti alloy sword in his hand also glowed with a scorching red light representing dark energy. When the immortal warrior below saw this, the armor on one shoulder flipped over, and the two prismatic barrels popped out from the back and were pointed into the air. The lock mark in the goggles captured the swooping figure of Angel Leng in the blink of an eye. The next moment, two blazing yellow high-energy rays shot out, leaving two gradually fading paths of light in the sky. Angel Leng slightly changed the frequency of his wings, and with a few flexible maneuvers in the air, he avoided the rays. After seeing that the distance was almost close, Leng waved his long sword one after another, and several 1-meter-long flaming slashes flew out into the air, like the vanguard of the battle, rushing towards the immortal below. Binghua, who was watching the battle from a distance, nodded when he saw this. This was quite consistent with his own style back then. He used flaming slashes to attract the enemy's attention, and he followed closely behind. He often did this in the past. This tactic does have a good effect against ordinary enemies, but what Leng is facing is arguably the strongest group of immortal pilots in the justice world, who are top professional soldiers. These veterans of the battlefield, apart from anything else, are absolutely extraordinary in terms of combat ability and sense of danger. It doesn't matter how good Angel Leng is. The development of the situation was exactly as Binghua expected. In response to the flying flames, the immortal warrior directly raised his shield, unfolded the folded shield, and spread the force field energy into a stance shield that could cover his entire body. The dozens of flaming slashes that shot down only stirred up a burst of earth, stone, and sand, but landed on the force field shield without causing even a single ripple. This is certainly related to the powerful defensive power of the force field shield itself, but it is also inseparable from the Ti alloy sword in Leng's hand. As a training weapon without weapon engine-assisted calculations, in addition to basic dark energy cutting, such as flame slash, all require the holder's own computing power to perform calculations. A few months ago, Leng would never have been able to throw out so many flaming slashes while holding an alloy sword, even if it was just something that only focused on quantity, not quality. With a loud rumbling sound, Leng's head hit the ground as he dived down, and the terrifying kinetic energy directly raised the ground in an area of more than 10 meters in radius. The body of the immortal moved away from the center of the crash point through the shock wave, but after cooling down, it rushed out of the earth and rocks that had not yet fallen, and the alloy sword in his hand slashed hard. After a whole buzz, the immortal was defeated and flew backwards and fell to the ground, plowing a deep ditch. However, he quickly stood up with the help of the jetport on his back and reorganized his body. Leng did not stop, using acceleration to continuously superimpose his own potential energy, he rushed towards the immortal. The moment he passed by him, he swung the alloy sword in his hand fiercely. But the next moment, the immortal's body moved a certain distance through the nozzle on his back, just in time to avoid the sword edge swung by Leng. Immediately afterwards, Leng felt that he was hit hard by something, flying out like a cannonball, knocking over a huge rock more than 10 meters high, and being buried underneath. As for the immortal, he just got up from the ground. Just now, he used the immortal's calculation power to avoid the cold attack and delivered a powerful and heavy kick. However, Leng's speed was too fast, and the kinetic energy wrapped around his body was also terrifying. Although Leng was successfully kicked away by this kick, the immortal felt that his legs almost flew out with him. After the previous contact, the immortal finally understood what the goddess meant when she asked him to do his best, because he would not be able to fight against the goddess's students without doing his best. Binghua watched with gusto, although in her eyes it was like playing house, and although it seemed that Leng had fallen below, Binghua, who knew the situation of the immortal and Leng, was very clear. It is actually very difficult for the immortal to defeat Leng, and the most difficult part is how to catch Leng. Angel's excellent battlefield mobility is no joke. By continuously accelerating and superimposing potential energy, it is easy to accumulate kinetic energy that super soldiers of the same level cannot compete with. At this time, as long as a raid is launched, super soldiers of the same level can be easily killed by the sword. The reason why the known universe is afraid of the angel civilization is not only because of its terrifying strength, but also the extremely powerful individual combat capabilities of the angel warriors. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 785. Sure enough, what happened next was pretty much what Binghua had imagined. Leng Dao, who rushed out from the pile of rubbles, calmed down a little and stopped charging hard. After all, he was beaten severely by the immortal. If he didn't have a longer memory, then it's not reckless, it's stupid. Seeing Leng relying on his powerful mobility to continuously circle around the immortal, sending out several flaming slashes to harass him from time to time, waiting for an opportunity to attack, Binghua finally felt some comfort in his heart. Compared with Leng's ease, the immortal as a sparring partner was much more cautious. Although he was very confident in the defensive capabilities of his armor, he didn't want to try the feeling of being hit by Leng. In fact, if Leng is equipped with a flaming sword at this moment, he can completely break through all the magic with one force. Relying on the high power of the flaming sword, he can directly break through the immortal's force field shield with a charged attack. Without the strongest means of defense, the outer armor of the immortal cannot withstand a few swords at the ultra-high temperature of hundreds of thousands of degrees, which can be cut by the flaming sword. But Binghua banned Leng from using the flaming sword in order to get rid of her extreme dependence on weapons and improve her own combat capabilities. After continuing to observe for a while, a communication prompt jumped out. Queen, the fleet reinforced by the Eternal Ascended Ones is gradually decreasing. It should be Commander Hemingway who has gained something. Kazah's face appeared in the projection. For the past 2 or 3 years, the male Angel Legion commander and his first mixed Angel Legion had been on the front lines. Otherwise, Binghua would not have the time to leisurely watch Leng's training here, and he would also have great trust in Kazah Binghua. In this case, Planet 15,246 has no value as a bait. Capture him, Kazah. Let it become our forward base, and then we will share the pressure on Hemingway. Find the Eternal Ascended One at the core of the star field, and then attack with all your strength. Binghua's words were calm and decisive, directly setting the tone of the subsequent strategy. As for what Hemingway is doing now, Binghua has no intention of asking. As long as the other party does not ask her for help, it means that his current attack is going smoothly. After Kazah received the Queen's exact instructions, he hung up the communication. Although Kazagui is a member of the goddess's race and is also the commander of the Angel Legion, the commanders of the various legions in the world of justice don't really buy into his account. Because all officials and soldiers in the righteous world know that the goddess treats everyone equally and follows one principle, that is, the capable are promoted, the mediocre are given way, and the mediocre are demoted. As long as you have the ability, you can gain the appreciation of the goddess, be promoted quickly, and gain the ability to command an army alone. Although Kazah was extremely powerful and experienced enough, he was still good at leading the army into battle, but his strategic vision was a bit untidy. Therefore, those legion commanders would not rush in randomly before receiving exact instructions. Although Binghua was teaching Leng, he was not unconcerned about the battle situation. Multi-threaded thinking and processing capabilities allow Binghua to multitask and handle multiple tasks at the same time. However, this high-efficiency working mode is very unfriendly to her. Therefore, Binghua usually only enters this mode occasionally. After formulating a strategy and allowing each legion to gradually advance operations step by step, he can fish for a long time. After dealing with matters related to the 15,246 planetary war, Binghua once again focused on the battle between Leng and the Immortals. After the ravages of both sides, there were many traces of smearing on the originally relatively flat land. The immortal warrior's shield flew out from his hands at some point, leaving only the giant sword as a weapon. There was some extra dirt on Leng's body. It was obvious that he had had close contact with the earth during that period of time. While Binghua was observing the two, the winner of this exercise was also decided. Leng used the high-speed impact force to knock away the immortal's weapon, and then followed up with a sharp flying kick, turning it into a rolling ball. Ground gourd. Before the immortal could get up, the sword in Leng's hand was already placed on his neck, and the immortal gave up resistance, admitting his defeat. This result cannot be called an accident. Originally, Binghua had expected that it would be difficult for the immortal to win, even if he was a soldier who had experienced hundreds of battles. Okay, Leng did a good job, at least you didn't get knocked down by him. You are not a bad warrior either. You have persisted for so long in the face of the attack of a high-level angel. You are worthy of your name as an immortal. Thank you for your compliment, but I still let you down, goddess. The immortal warrior was a little frustrated because he failed to complete the task ordered by the goddess he worshipped. There was a hint of joy on the cold face on the side. She was praised by the teacher. This feeling made her feel a little happy. This was a rare time when she was in a happy mood during this period. Seeing this, Binghua laughed and cursed, "This achievement makes you proud. In this star field, the enemies you have to face are far stronger than him. Go and rest for a while, I will add some ingredients to you later, and continue to exercise until you are proficient in dark energy tactics." Leng Vinyan's expression immediately fell, and he walked aside to rest. Binghua summoned Tianjian and asked her to pull over some immortal warriors who were on standby. About half an hour later, as a blue light pillar fell from the sky, 4 immortal warriors with slightly different equipment appeared from the light pillar. Leng's face turned green when she saw this. It took her so long to deal with an immortal warrior just now, but now it has doubled 5 times. How can she fight? Fortunately, his teacher's words made Leng breathe a sigh of relief. Next, I'll make it a little more difficult for you, 1-on-2. Don't lose, cold. Binghua smiled and stepped aside. The new immortal was just communicating with the immortal who was Leng's sparring partner. If Leng also joins the channel, they will know that they are sharing Leng's combat information. As Binghua retreated, a new challenge began. Leng Ye cheered up and developed a rebellious mentality. She must defeat these immortals and impress the teacher. But soon Leng had to accept the cruel reality that there was an essential difference between 1-on-1 and 1-on-2. At the beginning, before Leng could pick up his speed, he was caught up by an immortal equipped with melee-style equipment. Another immortal set up a miniature individual dark matter railgun in the distance. Facing the alternating attacks from near and far, Leng Fei was so disoriented that he didn't know who to attack first. She ran to attack the immortal who was harassing her from a distance, and the melee immortal stuck to her like a dogskin plaster. When she wanted to deal with the immortal who was pestering her first, she would get cold shots from time to time. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 786. Although Leng is a third-generation angel, being hit by a dark matter annihilation bomb will still be very uncomfortable, and the defensive force field on the surface of the body will be greatly impacted. This kind of practice lasted for more than a month. Leng Ye could only deal with 2 immortal warriors from the beginning, but in the end she was able to remain undefeated when faced with the siege of 5 immortal warriors. However, if she wanted to fight back, according to her current situation the level cannot be achieved yet. And Leng's ability to resist the siege of 5 immortals did not rely solely on his own swordsmanship and combat awareness. After being given a mixed doubles match by 2 immortals for a few days, Leng became enlightened and took the initiative to learn about light and shadow drive algorithms, dark energy bursts, and some combat algorithms that could provide good auxiliary effects in combat. Because without relying on these algorithmic deceptions to interfere with the immortal armor's scanning capabilities, Len would be unable to escape their attacks and would quickly become stuck, subsequently falling into a losing situation. Binghua is very happy about this, because these auxiliary algorithms are actually the method Binghua left for Leng to break the game. After getting along with Leng for this period of time, Binghua has discovered some of Leng's qualities. Leng's brain is not stupid, but he just hates these things that require a lot of time to study. Therefore, if she wanted to learn knowledge efficiently, verbal coercion was useless, so Binghua found another way, using the environment and high-pressure combat to make Leng take the initiative to search and study. Judging from the current situation, this method is very effective. When the immortal is unable to apply cold pressure, he will call Ziluo over and just take over the immortal's work. It is perfect. As for Binghua's own micro-wormhole transportation tactics and access to her own weapons arsenal, she had no intention of teaching Leng these immediately. This was not a simple combat algorithm. Although there are a large number of ordinary standard weapons stored in her arsenal, there are also some cutting-edge weapons with special functions, and she has a lot of collections. If Leng accidentally loses a few of them, she will feel distressed for a long time. While Angel Leng was studying in the world of justice, the fourth war between angels and demons in the known universe started again. However, this time the war between demons and angels was not as grand as the previous 3 times. Some famous demons on the demon side, including the demon king Morgana, did not show up. Some of the more senior angels on the angel side are also guarding Merlot Heaven. Only the new generation of angels and the new Holy Zeuian lead the Angel Legion to attack and destroy the demons emerging in the territory of the Righteous Order. This time, called the Fourth War between angels and demons by the civilization of the known universe, it did not last long, only lasting a few years. In this war, Yan successfully stood out among many angels. Her unmistakable power of thunder and lightning, as well as her firm belief in the concept of justice, also successfully brought this young angel into the sight of the main gods of various civilizations in the known universe. In fact, the reason why Yan became famous so quickly is related to the rare thunder tactics, because before Yan, no angel who mastered the thunder tactics was easy to deal with. Not to mention the first Holy Left-Wing Hyoka who killed Iora in one battle. The second Holy Left Wing also has the title of Thunder God of War. Both are existences that play with energy in the form of thunder and lightning. Now an angel has appeared. This has to make some civilizations feel a little worried about the future. Could it be that another ice flower or ice flower will be born from the angels? Burn such an existence. Yan returned to Merlot Heaven with the glory of defeating the devil, and finally secured his position as the Holy Left Wing. Some angels who had participated in the previous wars with demons felt uncomfortable with the performance of demons in the fourth war between angels and demons, but they had to admit that Yan had indeed won and stabilized the order of justice. Queen, let's let that little bitch Yan return to Merlot Heaven in a big way. A tall demon with a pair of horns said angrily to Morgana. Achuo, I know you are dissatisfied with your failure, but a loss is a loss. There will be many opportunities to regain the position in the future. Morgana crossed her legs and was looking through her notes, writing and drawing on them with her fingers from time to time. And Yan is nothing to be afraid of, she is just a little girl who is less than 6,000 years old. But my good sister actually handed over such an important position of the Holy Left Wing to this little angel. Is she out of her mind? Morgana was very confused about the fact that Yan turned out to be the Holy Left Wing of the angel, and she was even more surprised as to why Kesha did this. You must know that the Holy Left Wings of the past dynasties are extremely powerful. Not to mention compared with her, but at least they are not too far behind. What is the situation of Yan? She was just an ordinary third-generation angel, and he could twist her into a knot with just one move. Kesha couldn't possibly not know this. This is also the reason why Morgana didn't take action. She was afraid that this was a trap set by Kesha, so she was waiting for her to show up and give herself a big surprise. Morgana doesn't take the outcome of the war between angels and demons seriously. After all, she has never won. The only time she had the upper hand was when Alon fell, but in the end she was led by Kesha. Holding the sacred wings almost cast a psychological shadow. Now there is only one thing Morgana wants to do, and that is to research, research, and research. She, the Demon King Morgana, will never go out without finding a way to deal with Kesha's silver wings. And it just so happened that Angel had similar ideas to Morgana, but Merlot Heavenly Court did not target Morgana, the defeated general, but let Kesha eat a suffocated death god Carl. Hexy, Carl's research on Void has far exceeded our understanding of Void. I have carefully analyzed the battle data with him over the years, but I have no clue. I wonder if we should change our thinking. Kesha and Hexy were sitting in the garden pavilion in Kesha's palace, drinking tea and discussing the topic about the god of death, Carl. I don't have a clue. I also discussed this issue with Binghua, and he suggested that maybe our attack power at the time was not powerful enough. Moreover, Binghua has completed the research on the star capture device and captured a neutron star. She is going to process it into a weapon. When talking about this, He-11 also had to admire her sister's craziness in developing weapons. She was always obsessed with being more powerful, which she really couldn't learn. Kesha's eyelids jumped when she heard this. Just by hearing the names, she roughly knew the power of these two things. You must know that Liang, who has studied stars the most, has only mastered the technology of driving stars and can move stars to a certain extent, but can't control it too finely. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 787. Skipping the topic about Binghua, Kesha, and Hexy's topic returned to the void again. We angels cannot sit back and wait for death like this. He-11, authorize you to establish a research project on void, but you can only study it yourself and do not disclose it to other angels. Although this violates the laws of justice and order, sometimes we cannot be trapped by these rules and regulations. We angels can do without it, but we absolutely cannot live without it. The meaning of Kesha's words is very obvious, that is, the angel of void technology must also master it, and must not continue to lag behind Carl, the god of death, otherwise the opponent will become a big trouble sooner or later. Now that Merlot Heavenly Court can continue to suppress him, it is necessary to develop targeted methods as soon as possible and find opportunities to get rid of this unstable factor. Queen Kesha, I understand, I will start researching it as soon as possible. Okay, now that we've finished talking about the serious stuff, it's time for us to talk about some trivial matters. When Kesha said this, her eyebrows that had been frowning finally relaxed a little. How has Qingning been studying recently? I heard from some angels that she has come up with a lot of little inventions recently. Well, they are all things that look fancy but are actually useless. He-11's face was a little tangled. Logically speaking, He-11 should be happy to have a student with such a quick thinking like Qingning, but in fact He-11 was a little unable to describe his feelings. Qingning is very smart and has a lot of ideas, but how can I describe it? Her talents are all in mechanical engineering. She doesn't like supergenetics and dark energy theory very much. Recently, I am even more enthusiastic about transforming the Tianjian series of construction robots, adding intelligent modules to them, and tinkering with these robots every day. Kesha chuckled when she saw He-11's appearance, and He-11 said helplessly. Queen Kesha, you didn't mention this just because you wanted to laugh at me, right? How could that be? Am I the kind of guy with a bad personality? Kesha coughed slightly and put away her smile. But I understand you quite well. Not to mention your lime, So does Yan. Her growth is a bit deviated from my expectations. I originally wanted to use this war to train her mind and let her understand that as a commander and a decision maker, sometimes she needs to be calm enough and make decisions on some things when necessary. Give up. Unexpectedly, the demons under Morgana's command behaved so badly this time, and were easily wiped out by Yan Yan and his troops. To be honest, I was a little confused at first. I thought Morgana would jump out and surround Yan Yan, so I was ready to intervene in this war at any time. Unexpectedly, Morgana did not show up this time. This is not like her style. Queen Kesha, you are thinking too much about Liang Bing, although she is indeed a little unclear about the situation. But in the past few years, we have defeated the demon army that she managed to pull up several times. Even if she has no brains, she should understand one fact. That is, she and her demon army are no match for angels. Whenever they appear, they will be met with our iron-blooded suppression. After he 11 finished speaking, he turned a little worried. But she must be brewing something when she doesn't show up this time. We must be careful next time we see her. She may already have a way to deal with us. The woman he 11 was referring to was naturally Morgana. Regarding Morgana, he 11 did not mean to underestimate her. She and Morgana used to quarrel frequently, although she was belittled to the point of being useless more than once. But a being without any talent or brain cannot become one of the 4 kings of angels, let alone lead his soldiers to survive and strengthen himself under the siege of male angels. In the world of justice, in the purified star territory, after decades of fighting, there are very few areas left under the control of the eternal sublimators of the purified star territory. Hemingway gave full play to the strengths of the newly established Super Legion and organized it into the most elite assault regiment. Whenever the expedition fleet used artillery fire to blast away the defense of the Eternal Ascended Ones, these superhuman warriors would quickly insert themselves into the enemy army and tear them apart. A gap opened. The resource collection planets of countless Eternal Ascended Ones were knocked out by Hemingway's team, while the main force of the 1st Expeditionary Force, where Binghua was located, advanced step by step. Based on the troop mobilization of the Eternal Ascenders, Binghua deduced the location of the opponent's possible production facilities and quickly led the expeditionary force to advance, attracting a large amount of enemy attention, which greatly relieved Hemingway's pressure. At the same time, in the past 10 years, Leng has undergone earth-shaking changes under Binghua's strict training. Leng has mastered dark energy tactics, as well as some of its advanced driving algorithms, as well as auxiliary light and shadow driving, micro-wormhole transportation, etc. Even Leng was slightly involved in the thunder combat technique, but due to personal problems, Leng's learning was extremely slow, and Binghua did not force Leng to learn this. Now that Leng is facing the siege of the immortal team, he can easily manipulate them at the palm of his hand. The combined effect of various interference algorithms and auxiliary algorithms is not as simple as 1 + 1. So Binghua and Leng, who had not seen each other for a long time, competed again. This time Leng was full of confidence and planned to embarrass his teacher. Binghua didn't say that she knew Leng's thoughts, but she also knew it, because Leng didn't hide his thoughts at all, and everything he thought was written on his face. This is also the reason why Binghua did not teach Leng any other knowledge besides teaching her combat knowledge, because according to Binghua's observation, unless something major happens to Leng and changes her character, her future will not be the same. The direction of development should be a pure fighting god. Seeing her teacher carrying out her own weapon, an ordinary flaming sword, Leng secretly curled her lips. Leng had also seen her teacher's arsenal several times, which greatly enriched her horizons. But every time she and Binghua competed, both used flaming swords, in the words of her teacher. I won't bully you either. Our master and apprentice use the same weapons, and I will also suppress the power of the divine body to the level of a 3rd-generation angel, so that at least you can still fight. Binghua's smile was so sunny and beautiful that even though she was cold, she couldn't help but stare at it for a while, but she soon realized that she must not be fooled by the teacher's appearance. "Teacher, today I will let you take a good look at the results of my studies in the past few years." After saying that, Len didn't wait for the official decision to begin the sparring session, and launched a shameless sneak attack, rushing out with one step, leaving behind a dark energy projection that was fake and real. The corners of Binghua's mouth raised slightly, and the flaming sword in his hand drew an arc of light in the air and slashed towards the void on one side. The next moment, an ear-splitting buzz sounded, shaking the earth and rocks on the ground. Unexpectedly, Leng appeared here, and the flaming sword thrust out of his hand was knocked away by the sword in Binghua's hand. "You've learned how to sneak attack, Leng. You wouldn't have been so shameless before." "Teacher, nothing in this world is static. When facing a strong enemy, you must use all means. This is what you taught me." Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 788. Faced with the stalemate, Leng took the lead and gave up the fight with Binghua and flew backwards, while not forgetting to swing several flaming slashes. But in front of Binghua's random flaming slash, they were all shattered by the impact. Seeing this, they felt a bit toothache. This was a crushing attack on the intellectual level. No matter how many times he saw his teacher's flaming slashes, Leng was envious, because compared to her slashes that looked like burning flames, Binghua's slashes were like a slender line. But this line that seemed to break at a touch could easily divide her attack into two parts. Binghua walked a few steps, holding the flaming sword in his hand like a sword flower, with a relaxed and carefree attitude. After Leng distanced himself in mid-air, he charged again. On the way, his body shape changed and transformed into 5 figures, each of which looked exactly like Leng Chang's. Binghua raised her left hand, and dark energy began to gather. The next moment it turned into leaping thunder and lightning. As she waved her hand, the lightning stretched forward crazily, leaving irregular network residues in the air. Although Leng in the air tried his best to avoid it, he was eventually struck by the lightning. The figures of the 5 Leng were all blurred, and they were all obviously fake. Binghua's eyes flashed with white light, and his gaze swept across the empty air. He raised the flaming sword in his hand, and 2 flaming slashes flew out horizontally and vertically, cutting 2 burning gaps in the air. Leng turned around in embarrassment to avoid the speeding attack. The method that had been very effective against the immortals in the past was so easily seen through in front of his teacher. "Leng, you seem to have forgotten one thing. All angel tactics are recorded in the angel database. The Eye of Insight is a disguised form of mobilizing the information in the angel database, scanning out things that it has recorded or not recorded, and giving explanations. These tricks of yours to hide yourself and deceive the existence of other civilizations are okay. But if you are fighting with your own race, unless your computing power can overwhelm the opponent, all these auxiliary disguise methods will be useless." As Binghua spoke, he raised his left hand. 5 simple shaped swords in the void on his side, but all equipped with weapon engines. Silver swords engraved with complex sacred language flew out of the wormhole and hung beside Binghua. The next moment these long swords stood up, Binghua introduced the dark energy projection formula into the weapon engine, and then these long swords spread the dark energy force field around, and 5 figures identical to Binghua appeared. After Binghua's reminder just now, Leng would naturally not forget the convenient thing called the Eye of Insight. When Binghua just carried out these weapons, Leng was scanning their composition and function, and naturally saw the 5 weapons below. Those in the figure are projections, and that one is the real person. "Teacher, aren't you the same as me just now?" Leng said in confusion. His teacher had just said that this kind of auxiliary combat method was useless when facing his own race, so why did he use it instead? "Oh, do you really think I do the same as you?" A smile appeared on Binghua's face. In the next second, 5 dark energy projections were surrounding her. At the same time, Leng incited her wings to rush into the air. Both her movements and demeanor were exactly the same as hers. It was impossible to tell the real thing from the fake one just by sight. Leng rushed towards him without fear, it was just a mere projection. But the next second Leng's eyes widened slightly in shock, because the flaming sword he swung was blocked by the weapon in the projection's hand. Although the opponent's strength was unexpectedly weak, he was repelled directly. But the other party is an entity. Is an entity. When Leng was shocked, the other 4 Binghua projections also approached, surrounding Leng in the middle. In the next moment, a total of 4 flaming swords attacked from all corners. Leng responded hurriedly, and even used the dark energy burst. Silks of dark energy surged out from the surface of his body, as if wrapped in a coat that blurred the air. This state can be said to be the ultimate weakened version of dark energy overload, which can enhance the user's speed and destructive power to a certain extent, but the disadvantage is that it has a time limit. If it is forcibly turned on, it will cause continuous damage to the body, just like dark energy overload. Leng kept blocking the flaming swords coming from all around, and the sound of clanging weapons was heard endlessly. She found the opportunity to narrowly avoid the sword blade that swept in front of her, and the flaming sword in her hand stabbed a Binghua who was surrounding her from a very tricky angle. The result surprised Leng. Her sword successfully penetrated the projection of Binghua's abdomen, but before she could be happy, she discovered an abnormality. The resistance on the sword in her hand was unexpectedly light. It should be said that it did not receive any resistance at all. The next moment Leng was hit in the back by the weapon wielded by projection Binghua and fell towards the ground. At some point, Binghua found a stone with a flat top and sat down on it, stroking her fingers in boredom. Looking up and seeing this scene, Binghua sighed and shook his head slightly. Leng was still a little worse after all. She was too tired to deal with just her own projection. If she had gone up, this competition between master and disciple would have ended. At this time, Binghua has not used the technology and computing power that exceeds the upper limit of the 3rd generation of angels. Otherwise, it would not be 5 projections that would besieging Leng at this moment, starting with at least 180. Before Leng was about to have close contact with the earth, she fluttered her wings, stabilized her figure and rushed forward, with 5 projection Binghua hanging behind her, chasing her. While avoiding the 5 projected Binghua who were chasing behind him, Leng's peripheral vision also saw the bored Binghua sitting on the ground, and he almost fell to the ground again. On the other hand, Leng, who is extremely talented in combat, is also thinking about the working principle of the projection ice flower, and thinks that his teacher is not a direct condensed projection, but uses weapon engines and weapons as the core of the projection. Thinking of this, Leng began to think back on the various combat algorithms he knew, trying to find a way to crack them. Leng, running away won't solve the problem. Just at this moment, Binghua's voice on the ground reached Leng's ears, which made her feel even more irritated. In the end, Leng simply stopped thinking about it. The raging dark energy gathered on the flaming sword, and the sacred language inscription on the sword's spine shone brightly. When the formula of flaming bombardment was introduced into the weapon engine, the originally violent energy began to flow into the energy circuit of the sword according to Leng's will. Run! Leng turned around and wielded a fan-shaped flame bombardment. The extremely high temperature and extremely corrosive energy torrent immediately overwhelmed the 5 projection ice flowers, and then fell on the ground unabated, impacting along a canyon of hundreds of meters.